About 250,000 people marched on Washington in August 1963, including civil rights activist Claiborne Carson. It was one of many protests against segregation and other forms of legal discrimination during that era.
I was 19 years old. I didn't tell my parents I was going. For me, this was an event that was long overdue.
There was that sense of urgency.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what King spoke to, is the urgency of now. There comes a time when people get frustrated at the slow pace of change.
Today, more than 50 years later, there seems to be a new sense of urgency. Sam, you tweeted last year there were protests in over 100 cities. That hasn't happened since 1965. It's a new civil rights movement, folks. What would you say is different about today's civil rights movement?
One big key difference is the use of technology. How technology has been an instrumental tool in bringing folks together and scaling the work at a pace that really was unheard of in the 60s.
Can you talk to me about organizing back in the 1960s? How did people organize an effective grassroots movement?
Mainly face-to-face. And the main, electronics we used were telephones. In fact, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee developed what they called the Watts line, and all it really was a way of making inexpensive long-distance telephone calls.
A WATS, or Wide Area Telephone Service Line, allowed civil rights workers to report threats or violence happening on the ground. Typed reports of those calls would be delivered to movement leaders and the press.
And that was a major transformation in the movement. Social movements always use the technology of their day to the maximum because social movements are all about communicating to people. That's still happening today. The only thing that's different is that it's much faster.
What do you think Dr. King would think about the Black Lives Matter movement, for example?
I think he would be very appreciative of the fact whenever young people are concerned about things other than themselves. That's a positive sign. I think he would have thrived in this kind of an age. He would have been very, very open to using social media. He would have had millions of followers on Twitter.